Okay, so we got rid of that part, and now we're going to get to the boring epidemiology stuff, right? So first, let me give you some terminology. So descriptive types of epidemiology, you have something called descriptive. When I say something descriptive, it's a study that's describing the situation. It's giving you quantity. It's saying that the percentage of this happening in this part is this much. This is describing descriptive epidemiology. So it's saying, it's answering these questions. What's happening? Who's getting it most? Where is it happening? Analytical epidemiology is trying to relate a factor to the disease. Those kind of studies. And experimental is when you start intervening. Let's add a treatment. Let's see what happens when we give this. Okay? So you could look at it like this. Descriptive means we're looking at a condition and we're studying how often is it happening in the population. Okay? Analytical means, okay, now we're going to study the condition and maybe a factor to see how they're associated. We're analyzing now. We're trying to determine etiology. And here, we could actually prove that etiology even more if we could use a treatment and actually gives us an outcome in the condition. Okay? So some terminology and also descriptive epidemiology is prevalence and incidence. So prevalence indicates what proportion of a given population is affected by a condition at a given point in time. So for example, the prevalence of periodontal disease among 100,000 adolescents was 5%. So it's saying how many people have the disease right now in the population. Incidence says how many new cases are we getting in a period of time. So for example, incidence of oral cancer, you could say 10 cases per month, 10% a year of this type of people. Okay, let's look at it from a different point of view. Incidence, how many people can get the disease at risk? Let's say ovarian cancer, so we're looking at 10 women. They could all get the disease. 4 of them actually got the disease. So it's 4 out of 10 in a certain, in a range of time, month. Prevalence, how many people in the total population have the disease? So another way of looking at it too is prevalence is measuring the burden of the disease. That's another way of saying it. How many people do we have how many people have the disease right now that we have to deal with to treat? That's the burden on the community to treat. How many new cases is coming in every once in a while? That's incidence. Okay? So prevalence is looking at a condition, the quantity of it at a point in time. Incidence, how many new cases are happening from the population in a range of time. A good way I saw it as well explained, just to make it kind of more visual. New cases so imagine this container. No recording, please. No recording, please. I'll send you the notes after. Just no recording class, please. Okay. So if this is a container that shows you how many people have the disease right now. Okay. This is a container showing you how many people have the disease right now. So incidence is saying there's a population. If every once in a while there's 2 people that are getting the disease, they're entering the container. So this is the prevalence. Okay. How do people leave the container? Well, either by death or cure. Right? So if death and cure increase, prevalence will decrease. Right? Does that make sense? If incidence increases, prevalence will increase. Right? So prevalence is affected by the incidence and also by death and cure, how long it takes to treat it or how long people die from it. Okay? So prevalence is measuring how many people have the disease now. Okay? All right. Good thing we got that out. Now I'm going to get to the part, the studies, right? The studies that we all worry about. So let's start from the beginning. So someone, let's say a doctor, they have a medical clinic, and they find a patient, they have a new disease, something they've never seen before, right? Okay. So something never seen before, they write it. They write, this is what I see, this is what happened, these are the symptoms, this is the patient that got it. This is what they're saying they have. They're describing the disease. And they report this case to whoever they need to report it to. This is called a case report. That's called a case report, okay? So it's not really strong evidence, it's not finding any kind of solution. It's not describing what the etiology is, it's just describing the case. So it's descriptive epidemiology, right? Having descriptive epidemiology. What if multiple doctors do this, right? So you have a bunch of people reporting a bunch of cases. So now you can put all those in the summary, and you call it case series. So a series of cases. And from these series of cases, you could look at them and go like, what's in common, what's happening? Maybe it's all happening in men that are drinking alcohol, or in men that are 40, 50, or women that are 50, 60, whatever. And then you could decide to do a study to see if that's right. So first, a case report, a simple summary of a disease, basically, that's found. A case series of those cases are put together, of multiple summaries. Now, cross-sectional, so from these you could move on to the cross-sectional and see, is there anything we're doing, is there anything we could find about these? So now you have after the case report, case series, you have these three studies, which are cross-sectional study, case control, and cohort, and those will give you answers, okay? These look scary. And so cross-sectional, let's read first cross-sectional. A descriptive or analytical. So in Mosley it was descriptive, in another area they said analytical, and then I'm like, why can't they decide? And then I found out it could be both, and from a different source. So you have to look in different sources to get answers sometimes. So it could be both. Sometimes called prevalence, because it's counting numbers. A study, prevalence studies, a study in which the health condition in a group of people who are a sample of the particular population is assessed at a point in time for the disease. A snapshot of the disease. Examine a group of, for example, examine a group of men who drink alcohol exposed to factors with the presence of oral cancer. The words, right? Let's see it. Okay, so first of all, let's break it down. In a cross-sectional study, you have one group, not two groups. See? So when you see something that's one group, you already know it's not cohort or case control. It's one group. Here you have one group in one population. One disease, you're studying one condition. You're not looking at other factors, you're studying one disease. And you're studying it at one point in time. You're not looking forward, you're not looking backward. Okay, so here's time, and here's the population. People are getting diseases here, they're getting treated. People are not getting treated. Different people here are getting diseases, they're getting treated, and it's changing. A cross-sectional study will, first, we want one group. We're looking at one condition, for example, oral cancer. We're going to see, let's study oral cancer. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how many people have oral cancer now, at one point in time. Okay? At one point in time. And that's where the name cross-sectional comes from, because you're cross-sectioning time. You're crossing the time. See the timeline, and you're crossing it at one point. Okay, you're not moving forward. Okay? Not looking backward, what happened before. You're not looking forward. You're just looking at what's happening right now. That's what the cross-sectional study is. What's happening right now in the population. So some people say, this is you the researcher, you took a picture of what's happening right now, and you're looking at it. Okay? That's cross-sectional. Is that clear? Okay. Now, you could get specific with what the population is. So the population could be alcohol drinking people, right? It could be alcohol drinking men. It could be alcohol drinking men aged from 40 to 50. Does that make sense? So you can get specific with the population. That's why sometimes it could be used in analytical. So for example, let's say you did a cross-sectional study on alcohol drinking men, and you got a number. You know someone else, maybe 2 years ago, did another cross-sectional in non-alcohol drinking men from the same age. If you compare both, you could analyze and come out with some sort of risk factor, right? So that's why it could be used to analyze, right? But it's descriptive and could be used to analyze it. It's used in a specific situation. So we have one group, that group could be as specific as you want, alcohol drinking men between 40 and 50. That's a group. One disease that we're looking at, how many people have it from this group, and one point in time. Okay. So advantages is that it's easy to do. It's a survey. Can you say if you have this or not? Can you see if you have this or not? Check, and you count. Okay. So it's easier to do, it's cheap to do. The disadvantage is that it doesn't determine risk factors in etiology. This shows you what's happening right now. Okay, so it's cross-sectional clear? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Case control. Case control study. Is there even a point of reading? Right? So people with a condition, cases, are compared with people without it, controls, but who are similar in other characteristics. And then hypothesize causal exposures. So you guess causal exposures are sought in the past medical records of the participants. Okay. Did anyone understand anything there? Example, a subject who would be split into two groups, those with oral cancer and those without it. The researchers can examine the history of participants for alcohol drinking and search for an association between the exposure and the disease. Okay, so let's look at what that means. Okay. I thought I knew English, but sometimes art is that, right? So in this one, here's time, and here's people. Okay? And what you're doing in a case control study is you split the group into two groups, a group that has the disease and a group that doesn't. Okay? So the people that have the disease, they're the cases. Remember case report, case series? Let's say there's 10 of them. You could go, oh, I know those 10 people. Can you tell me your patient, just get them. Make them a group, and get other 10 people that don't have the disease, and do a case control study. So those are the cases, the people with the disease. People without the disease are called controls. So here, you already know who has the disease and who doesn't. Okay? So let's say we're studying oral cancer. We are starting with the disease. The study starts with the disease. We already know who has cancer and who doesn't. That's fixed. The groups are split based on who has the disease and who doesn't, and it's fixed. So if they show you a study like that, you already know it's case control. There's two groups, one has the disease and one doesn't, case control. Because you're starting with the disease. And you, the researcher, what you're doing is that you're going to look back in time. Okay, so you're looking back in time for previous exposures. So you're looking, okay, did you drink, smoke, did you chew tobacco, did you do this? You check all the exposures. What did you do? You, and this person, you, and all that. So you're looking back for exposures. Exposures could be anything. So we are looking back in time to see why one has the disease and the other doesn't. For example, how many people smoked and how many didn't for each group. And the exposures could be anything that you're looking for. So that means you're starting with one disease and you're looking back for multiple exposures. You can study multiple exposures. Is that clear for now? Okay. So from that, this part I don't want you to memorize right now, not memorize the way it gets to, but I'll tell you what to memorize. But just try to pay attention with me here. So the people that have oral cancer, yes, right? So we have two groups, one that have oral cancer, one no. And smoking. So we're doing one exposing factor, smoking. So the people that have oral cancer, how many people of them smoke? Let's say we have 100 in each group. You guys with me? So we have 100 in this group and 100 in this group. So the people that have oral cancer, 90 of them smoked, and let's say 10 of them didn't smoke. And the people that don't have oral cancer, 20 of them smoked and 80 didn't smoke. Let's just say that. Okay, this is an example. Numbers, right? Okay. From these numbers, there's an equation that you could do that gives you something called the odds ratio. Okay? I'm going to show you how it happens once, and then you can forget about it. Just remember that it gives you odds ratio. Okay? It's pretty much this times this divided by this times this. But Anyway, what it means, the odds ratio is, first, odds of being exposed to smoking in case group. So what does case group mean? With cancer or without cancer here? With the cancer, right? So what we're saying in English is basically, if you have the disease, what's the chance that you have been exposed in the past? Right? So if you have the disease now, what's the chance that you have smoked in the past? That's what you're saying. So odds of being exposed to smoking in the disease group is 9. So that's high. That means, oh, you're saying basically, oh, you have oral cancer, you most likely smoked in the past. That's what you're saying. You're not saying if you smoke, you're going to most likely get oral cancer, right? You're saying, because you're looking behind you in these cases. So you're saying you have the disease, so you've most likely smoked in the past. Does that make sense? Okay? Not really? Whatever. But that's what it is. Now, in the other one, so you're saying that you're doing the same thing for this side. So odds of being exposed to smoking in the control, 20/80, so it's low, less than 1. So it's like you're saying, oh, you don't have oral cancer, that means you've less likely smoked in the past. Or you have a chance of being one of the people that did not smoke in the past. Right? So you didn't really smoke or something. And then they divide this by this, and that gives you the odds ratio. Okay, for here, for example, 36. See all this? I just want you to go through it once so that you see that there's a way of it coming, right? But what you really want to know is this part. So if the odds ratio is higher than 1, that means if you have the disease, you've most likely been exposed to the factor. Are you guys with me? So in our example, if you have oral cancer, that means you have most likely been smoking. If it's less than 1, it's the opposite. So that means if you have the disease, you have less likely been exposed